Preparing to live stream the meeting. Preparing to live stream the meeting. Already.
Good afternoon.
Preparing to live stream the meeting. Already.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which is stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Good afternoon. We're live.
Hi.
You're
Hold on.
on.
I don't see that. I don't see the screen.
Are you waiting for me? No.
Okay.
Okay, so we're live. Good afternoon. Today, we're starting the present is over here. Michelle, Parker, and Small.
And we have Fred Theo.
That's the one is. Right, run, red, minor. In the audience. I guess the first issue are minutes, and I think that we decided we're going to dispense with 2 months, but we're going to go and everything we come back. I did.
What you don't want to do with today?
Well, there was something that about the one that we didn't know. And everybody knows. It's like-
I've lived in the border, which is sort of like 10:30 at night, and I've just like done. But I don't know, maybe when everybody was.
I was asking for many, some of them.
All right.
I didn't get a chance to look at the July.
So does that mean?
All
Based on your recommendations.
Well,
I looked at them.
So let's do this, let's approve the April, May. Minutes. July. June.
Both the numbers.
so I make a motion to approve the April 7th minutes as written.
My echo. Make that motion to approve minutes. For April.
Second.
Second. So. All in favor? Aye. I always always under the impression that as chair, you couldn't take the motion. Is that true? Or not? What do you think? I always look to the committee. I asked them, well, we're okay. So April,
Okay, so we're gonna. I think you just did April, you want to do May?
You want to do May?
May.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for May 5th. Thank you.
Okay.
You guys are all in
Yeah,
favor?
all in favor?
Yeah,
That wasn't good.
okay.
And we are tabling June 2nd. The next meeting? Okay, thank you. For the record, the next meeting is August 4th.
August,
4th.
So we go to comments and questions. Attendance to the public session, input for comments, and questions, input for the audience. Is there anything electronically that anybody can answer questions or?
No.
Today, we are just streaming the meeting. This is not a hybrid meeting. So it's an in-person meeting and the public has the ability to watch the meeting. They do not have the ability to participate in the meeting version. So that's something I wanted to discuss at the end. You know, the village board has passed a local law that allows hybrid meetings, but this meeting is an in-person meeting that I think actually we've been streaming the meetings live for quite some time.
We have.
Maybe even before COVID. So people can watch the meetings.
Right.
Remotely, but they can't participate. So you have to be here to address the board participating. So it's not a hybrid meeting, it's an in-person meeting that we're streaming that so the public can watch. Thank you.
And is your understanding that meetings going forward will be hybrid, so people can be on Zoom and offer comments?
Well, we can talk about that in greater detail later, but in essence, what I can tell you is that until at least July 14th, until the next, and we'll see if the governor issues another executive order, but the totally virtual meetings are still permitted under the governor's executive order, so that is an option. And under the changes in the open meetings law, hybrid meetings are possible where people can participate remotely. The village board has passed a local law authorizing hybrid meetings. They are not mandated, they are authorized. And the way that the local law is written in the village of Sag Harbor, the village board has left it up to each board, each committee to decide for themselves whether or not they want to have hybrid meetings. So at the moment, virtual meetings are still legal, but not required. And it will be up to the harbor committee themselves, and something you may want to have further discussion on later. But it will be up to the harbor committee themselves to decide whether or not they want to permit a hybrid meeting or they want meetings to be in person. It is, the village board could have made that decision for all the boards for the uniform policy. They did not, so it is up to each board to be able to do that. And I'll have to defer to somebody with a greater knowledge than I do. Doris, I mean, we have the technology available yet to do hybrid meetings?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. So, but at some point, I know the village board is working on that
Correct.
technology. We will be able to do hybrid meetings, whether we do them or not. The harbor committee will be up to the board itself to decide.
And there's hybrid meetings and there's hybrid meetings. Will there be like one version where all the committee is expected to be here in person?
Let me talk about that a little bit. If you have a hybrid meeting, a quorum of the board has to be present in person. And if you are, and you can only participate remotely for what the law calls extraordinary reasons, and it identifies a couple of them. Would be disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities,
Wow.
things of that nature. So it is a fairly narrow exception. Right now, it's virtually nothing, so it's broader than what the old law was. But I think it's pretty clear that being away on vacation or being away on business is not perceived to be an extraordinary circumstance. So you're right, there's two parts to this. There's the board itself, and meetings, there has to at least be a quorum in person. But you can have a member less than a quorum participate remotely, but it has to be extraordinary circumstances. And as far as the public goes, if we decide to have hybrid meetings when the technology is available, then anybody in the public can participate remotely, just the same as if they were in here in person. So I guess that's not a decision to be made yet because the technology isn't available yet. At some point it will be, and then it'll be a decision for the harbor committee as to whether or not they want to allow for hybrid participation in addition to in-person participation.
But my concern is notice the public basically.
Right. Well, all of our public notices will have to have that information in it.
I understand that, but I'm curious for today. You know, I really don't know whether they're members of the public who thought they were going to be able to participate on Zoom. And they're finding out late that they can't. I mean, we don't have a huge audience here. So, compared to what we usually have for Zoom. Speculating that maybe some people were competitive. The comment on that is on the agenda today. But they were going to be able to do it.
No, the agenda, John, the agenda was posted and it stayed in-person meeting and it was posted on the website as well.
I actually spoke to somebody in the public today, and they were aware of the dynamic. Virtually, they would not be able. Yeah, so they got.
Yes. We had a few phone calls as well and we told them in person and yes, live stream on YouTube without participation.
So no comments from the public? Correspondence requiring action, 64 Germain Avenue.
Yep. 64 Germain.
Yes.
So Dennis Downs. We didn't, a lot of it was just not relevant. What we did find, and Brent can assist on this as well. Actually, I'll turn it over to Brent, because he's done some research on this.
Yes, one question, is the current permit expired?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was issued in May of 2016.
Oh my God, really expired.
This is the house.
Yeah. When it is, first, really.
It's the old factory building, I guess it's the.
Yeah, the approval speaks to very specific parameters of the project, not the project overall. Specifically, it notes the activities on the property that fall within 150-foot jurisdiction of chapter 285. That included some accessory structures, dry wells, reflecting ponds, and an area 75 feet in neighborhood wetlands to be encompassed by a scenic easement. That all is dated April 12, 2016. So if Mr. Downs were to present a plan that is either up or is consistent with the April 12, 2016 approval, it seems to me that a renewal is fairly straightforward. You know, that they're not changing anything with regards to the project, unless the harbor committee felt as though they wanted to take a second look at it, which seems unnecessary, given the fact that these structures were at least 95 feet away from the wetlands at their closest points. So after reading through all the paperwork and considering what we see here, we need some clarification. If it's a renewal of the permit as it was written, based upon a plan prepared by Lou Bennett on April 12, 2016, we can probably take action on that, recognizing that the plan is dated April 12, 2016. The only thing is we need to make sure that that is consistent with what the health departments are doing. Otherwise, the permit that we are renewing would not be valid when the health departments could be respected. So just a little bit.
What kind of septic system put there for a 3D project? The rules relative to design systems have become much more stringent. I don't think they were required to play. 6 years ago. This goes back to 2016. I agree with you, and Dennis did go to the planning board as well. So after you reviewed, and the planning board, the historic committee, familiar with this also. But at the planning board level, it was recognized that there were some changes in the plan. There was a reduction of 1 unit. There had something having to do with leaching pools. Something having to do with the shift of the driveway. Fairly minor changes. So, the board does have the ability to modify it under 285.11B. If they're not seeking any additional wetland setback relief. What the planning board did was they adopted a resolution saying we are modifying the permit subject to complying with certain conditions. And those conditions said submit a plan. So they have to go back to the planning board with some type of a plan. But they took action so that then it's to go back to the health department and say we have a valid proof.
That's not valid approval. That's asking.
I'm just telling you what the planning board did. There was a draft resolution prepared.
To say that they've got planning board approval and they're asking for review of the plan.
That's my understanding. So again, we don't have a modification for a permit pending. Everything it looks to me is that it would have to be modified by an official action of this committee. There has not been a plan or anything submitted officially to this committee to modify. And, we're just telling you, where we believe this sits in terms of what the applicant is looking for. It's been very vague in terms of submission or request, clarification on what the applicant is looking for. But that's my understanding of the planning board. And I think it was just that Kathy was authorized to prepare a resolution that it will come up at the next meeting for their consideration. So as far as this committee, I'm not sure what action is going to be taken because we really don't have an application. Currently asked Fred.
Yeah, well, I mean, just probably, first of all, the law, if they come in within 30 days of the expiration date, 30 days before, they're pretty much entitled to an extension. That is not the case. This has expired
6
years
years
ago.
ago.
Years ago. Well, I think it was granted 6 years. 4 years. Yeah, so, but it's been a while, needless to say. So,
There's activity going on over there. They're working on that product.
so any, so any action by this board on renewing the existing permit would be discretionary with you, and Chick pretty much outlined that, if if there's no change in circumstances, typically we grant those.
No further review.
Yeah.
Well,
And you can even make money, that is, if there's no change in circumstances for a plan that hasn't changed, pretty much we grant those. Well, I haven't finished,
Okay.
but I mean, in that circumstance, we would pretty, because you don't want to have to review the whole thing over again, it's gonna be the same answer, so, in those cases, you would, more times than not, most of the time, we grant them. And even if they were making a modification, as long as they're not getting any closer to wetlands, the statute gives you the authority to do that. I think what the Chick is saying, and I agree with, is we don't know what we have. So we don't really have enough before us to make a decision because, if you read the letter, it would be simply, you're just looking to, for a renewal of what we got approved all those years ago, but it doesn't really seem like that's the case. Or it may not be the case. So
The planning board evaluated and identified changes since the original approved plan. So
What changes did you get there?
that's what I said, we reduced it by 1 unit, there was a modification of the driveway access and something to do with leaching pools. We have a memo that identifies those changes. But again, we have no application. We know there are changes. The planning board is looking to try and accommodate by doing this sort of hybrid modification that recognizes that they have back into the plans. But, as far as this board, I don't know what to say, but we really don't have an application.
That seems conceptually the right thing to do, is that Mr. Downs wants to see the project. Limbo for so long, so he's testing the waters with letting the water that they're staying. these things need to be addressed. But I don't think that's. Is that house?
That's up to that board.
Yeah, and but from our perspective, it sounds like there's gonna be modifications to the existing approval. And until you have those changes before you, there's really nothing
And
there.
the question is coming from.
Right, that's.
Right.
So you think that they're going to insist on the kind of subsidy guidelines for septic systems?
So what's your letters? What would be your response?
We have nothing pending. There's no, I have no recommendation at this point, except to present my understanding of the fact that we have in front of us.
Have you read the permit that we issued in 2016? Does it include an IA system?
No. No, it was done by our predecessor. It was just a month or two before anything we started with the village. But I don't see anything about an iris.
Village law wasn't in effect.
Correct.
I think it was 2017. 2018.
Yeah, this predates, this may even predate the technology, well, maybe not the technology, but certainly the willingness of the health department to improve that technology. Right.
So wouldn't it seem that they have to play by the rules that are out there now?
I don't think we can grant them what they're looking for. They want to know whether a permit is still valid. The answer to that right now is no. But that, you would be willing to consider a modification if they submit one. But right now, right now, I mean, there is not a valid, the shorthanded answer here is there is not a valid permit. So we would not be able to represent that to the health department. Maybe when they're finished with the planning board, and then we know what the modifications are going to be. And we have nothing to look at.
Is it not straightforward to tell them that we think they should put an IA system in? It's a different program. It was a choice.
I think they're going to be required to bring I.
Right.
So we don't need to say the health department.
Yeah, because they are not, this project would not be grandfathered in under the Harlow law, because they did not have a health department. You remember the grandfather basically on this was, did you have a health department before the effective date of the village law, and they don't. And this would trigger the need for an IA system.
So it seems they have to come back to us with a new plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they would need to go through a full-blown application process. We could still perhaps do this through a modification process, but as Chicken said, I mean, we don't have that in front of us. So
There's no action we need to take.
I don't think there's any action you can take for that. Other than
Waiting for an application, which we assume to be a modification.
Yeah, I think to the applicant willing to consider a modification, it appears that one is going to be necessary and we can submit one.
Right.
And just on a preliminary technical basis, there's nothing that jumped out at me as requiring additional relief for being substantially different. If anything, there's one less unit. And, again, if we were going to modify it, I would want a plan, put a date, and create a resolution modifying the original permit. But we don't have.
You don't know if the footprint has changed. We don't have anything from since.
The footprint has changed. It has to because of the one less unit.
Well, no, they might have just like merged the square footage into part two, but maybe not. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That the bottom line is we don't know until they submit something. There's really nothing to it. Other than to say, right now, there's not a valid permit in place.
We also don't know whether the good work is done without a permit.
That would be to the building.
So we can move on to this. Thank you. Second item. The Sag Harbor Yacht Club. 107 Bay Street. Request to renew the wetland permit.
When did this expire?
This one, just added up the second, but we see if I still have it. It was just a little over 2 years ago. 27 Bay Street was issued on February 6th, 2020. And it was the replacement of bulkhead You probably remember this, but we had a pretty significant review of 156 feet of bulkhead. After the last meeting, the applicant was supposedly going to submit some additional information. We never received anything or heard anything. But you know, it's a little over 2 years. As I said, we did a thorough review of this. I don't see any issue with extending this permit. And I'm not sure what additional information the applicant had to submit. But
Was it information we requested they submit, or they just
I think
offered
they
it?
offered to. This was a Zoom meeting, and I remember it came up, and you know, we felt that we didn't have solid information. But I just looked at the file, the permits, the plans, the date, and everything was in place for a permit. We have issued extensions pretty routinely in the past, if nothing has changed. And as I said, thorough review 2 years ago.
Yeah, if they're not changing. Basically, the footprint of the project, we commonly do granted.
Does it say one for modifications of building? Can we just deal with that? I thought we approved something in terms of they wanted to modify the building, they got approval to put a second floor balcony on it, and they hadn't done that.
I remember that, but I think that was an earlier permit. I remember that from,
That's a different application.
yeah, that was different. This is 156 feet of in-place removal, I'm sorry, reconstruction of 156 feet of bulkhead in place. Removal of an existing lower walkway located seaward of the bulkhead in place. Removal of a 10 by 31 foot, I'm sorry, 10 foot by 31 inch concrete pier. Installation of a 6 foot wide walkway directly landward of the bulkhead. Extension of 2 finger piers, regrading and resurfacing of disturbed asphalt and replacement of concrete curbs. Again, I remember this on site, nothing here.
Yes.
So maybe,
So
maybe they're just finishing things up and
there, if you look at the draft June minutes, what Dennis Downs stated, the Harbor Committee wetlands expired on June 12, 2019. And the owner requests the Harbor Committee to renew the permit for the second floor deck balcony on the existing
Right,
clubhouse.
That's not what you're
all right,
talking about.
I'm
Right.
looking at a different one of the 27 Bixby permits, so.
Correct,
Correct.
yeah. So it was for, it's for the construction of the 305 square foot second floor deck balcony on the existing.
Right,
And Charles Voorhees to prepare a draft report for the next meeting, subject to additional information as discussed. But that's
And we never received any additional. information.
correct. So,
So is it required, so we just let it sit, or you write to them and say,
the applicant, Dennis Downs supposed to submit.
yes, being under the action?
Can we use administratively, if they were to submit the additional information, can Chief just sign up on that? Does that be good?
Well, my recollection is that they're just looking for an extension. They're not
Correct.
changing anything in this project. So, yeah, we've done that where, you know, subject to review by Chick. You know,
but it's additional information, so we don't know what's in the answer.
Well, to get. And, you know, I don't recall what additional information they were gonna submit, and they haven't submitted it yet, but. I mean, we certainly have done that, you know, approved something conditional on Chick renewing it. I mean, and again, I don't think they're looking to change the project, so. Could you do that? Yeah, you could probably do that. You could also wait to see what the information. Really kind of-
So I was right, it's a balcony.
I do have that whole project described, I found it right in front of me, sorry.
Okay, it's a balcony on the building.
Yeah, it was a 305 square foot second floor deck slash balcony on north side of an existing clubhouse. And I remember this one too, it was 2 years before.
This is the original clubhouse, the New York Yacht Club in Shelter Island, which was moved over.
Doesn't involve specifically into mentioning the. No, this was all pretty routine at that time as well.
I'm interested that Dennis Down said he was gonna send additional information.
We asked them what the status was, we might have asked what, why is it being renewed, what's the status, where in the construction? But again, we didn't receive anything, George said the minutes that reflect something that's gonna be submitted. And,
We can just adjourn, but you're, just, I'm not.
Yeah, you have to take any action.
Yeah.
Tell them we're waiting for the additional information.
Okay, I think we should move on.
Okay,
Thank you. Old business. So this is still a continuing public hearing.
correct.
This is the application of 88 Redwood Road. Yes.
Yes, Bruce Harrison, Suffolk Environmental Consultant. We've been tweaking these plans. We have made some changes. We don't want to move forward and
so you're gonna hold on a second, but we unfold here.
Yeah,
those plans, what we want to come back to is further change to those plans, particular survey. But it's clear that the survey, like the plans in front of you. Doesn't have to the next of everything. That site does not. So we're going to request adjournment the next year to give consultants for everyone additional time.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said. That this doesn't reflect the changes or it does.
We're making some further changes, but if you look at those plans, they're not dimensionalized.
Yeah, I looked at that.
Well, okay, so what we're trying to do is have those transposed onto a survey. And we want to present with the service, so it's crystal clear of what changes. That's why we're required to do this.
So I make a motion to, one motion to adjourn it. Make a motion. Well, I was gonna make a motion. Or you looking for a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn this until August 4th, is that correct?
Correct.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Bruce.
My birth.
The second item is the 30 John Street. Is there somebody here for 30 John Street?
I don't see Matt Ivans.
There it is.
Sorry,
You're up.
I'm up, I'm sorry. Hey, George.
I know.
You guys want me to walk you through and introduce, or do you guys want to do a little synopsis? You want me to do it? Okay. Okay, sorry, Matt Ivans, Suffolk Environmental applicant. I don't know if you guys received the updated surveys today. I know it was a little late. But you should have them in your file. So I'm just here to bring you guys up to speed where we're at. I don't know if you remember, in May, we were before you guys for proposed pool that's 45 feet from the top of the bluff. It was at 75 feet from the wetland. And the board's recommendation was to do what we could, explore alternatives to shift the pool to 50 feet from the top of the bluff. So the survey you have today shows that. We had to reconfigure the septic system. We created some non-conformities with respect to the health department's requirements, which is going to lead us to the board review at the health department level anyway. We were going to go to it anyway. So the purpose of this visit anyway is just to get your feedback, if any. Again, I know you guys have had literally no time to look at the survey, but last time I was here, that was pretty much the biggest concern. So I'm just looking for any kind of feedback. We do owe you a buffer design, which is going to be a free form. It's going to be the same square footage as a typical 50-foot straight across buffer. So we bring that to you guys next time, but it would be great if you guys give me an idea if this is overall okay with what you guys are looking for.
At one point, we talked about, you did flipping the deep end of the pond. The deep end of the pool.
I think
That might be, yeah, to get 50 feet, but you did it.
we just shifted the whole thing. We're trying to maintain the size of the pool, so.
But we were just saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Put the deep end at the other end, and it might probably need to get closer to the septic, but it's all right.
Yeah.
You did it without doing that, it's all good.
Yeah, I think everybody should. Talk with it. Yeah. Maybe.
It conformed to what setback. I think it's shame. And see the tree down, and don't see the tree. It is the negative. that's
Yeah.
coming out.
And the tree, even if you're in the septic system, the old septic is somewhat near it anyway, so you're gonna have some substantial root damage anyway. I mean, I did go to the ARB for discussion on this. They just requested that we plant 2 trees in the middle of it, which the owner's fine with.
It's trench drain.
It's supposed to be French drain, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. John Brillsky is rushing. So it's kind of, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, I just also I saw that it's a state the what you call it, native plantings,
Mhm.
which aren't really native.
Out at the site,
Yeah,
okay, well, we're gonna look at it, and we'll come back with like a native planting scheme. I think on the top of the bluff, the most active plantings, I think the bluff itself, the base, is natural, native.
no weeds, yeah.
Okay,
Percent.
yeah, okay, so we'll take a look at that, because when I come back with a big survey, looking like a planting.
Yeah, saying right now with those.
Yeah. Okay,
Standard, but looks like with a bulkhead.
in terms of what its condition?
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's failing to the point where I don't think the owner has any of that right now.
And that's maybe 50.
Yeah, but if it's not failing right now,
You know, are you?
I didn't quite hear your question.
Well, the bulkhead there, Judy and I went there the other day, bulkhead really.
Yeah.
Is what is the program for the weed? That's gonna get up for you. Eliminated or.
It's really up to the applicant.
yeah, I mean, that's,
So if it's failing, there's no.
if it's failing, I mean, honestly, I've never been in a situation where, if it's failing, it's kind of always been up to the owner, really. I mean, it's failing, I've seen people just let them go,
Funny, the survey doesn't reflect the bulk. I'm looking at it. It's in the- it's in the-
Yeah.
Poor kid.
It's what, 35-foot accessory. Front. I don't know what that means. I don't know what an accessory front is. That was the purpose, we had to go to the zoning board of appeals, but actually by shifting it behind the seaward face of the house, that kind of makes the variance go away anyway, yeah.
So what is, I don't.
No, that language is the zoning.
That's for zoning, yeah, we went to the ZBA before you guys.
We're saying that there is no indication. of bulkhead.
It's at the bottom of block.
Okay. Is this the one thing to look at? Okay, really. Okay.
I think that's the one. 21.
So did you, one of the members who saw us threatening you on the street, are you aware of that?
No,
It's a note that says if you keep at this tree down, you're going down.
get that, seriously, wow. Okay. I saw a picture of it this morning, they're gonna do stop working. Wow, I have not seen it now. Okay, I don't even know if I'll find out if the owner.
And you had,
So I'm gonna say,
Okay.
So you had like one, arborist say that this tree is like, but you had one arborist look at the tree.
The art, yeah, she had martyrs go over there a while ago.
They're 3 foot to 5.
Yeah,
She wants to get another.
she could, yeah, she could. But again, I mean, even with the replacement of the existing septic system, it's still, you're gonna see, that's still with a bond hit just with the septic system. So,
I'm not a, I hate cutting trees. But I do that tree is hollowed out.
yeah,
Looks healthy. But it's leaning towards. Neighbor's house.
Well,
The lifespan of this.
that thing, I mean, the size of that thing, gotta be at least 100 some odd years old.
What's the lifespan?
Of the tree,
Yeah, that's easy.
I cannot say.
Yeah.
I am not an arborist, but Will, I was gonna suggest, why don't I go down to what we talked about at the last meeting? Because I think Matt's done some of those things, and maybe it'll just give me guidance on
Great.
what we're looking to see for next month.
Okay.
And that was one of them, because I don't want to make that call, I want to see the arborist report, and we'd ask for that, so I'm hoping that'll come to this meeting. So we said, number one, add the buffer equivalent, Matt made reference to that, and a planting plan will be provided. We're gonna work with the applicants on a redraft. Brant did meet with our sanitary group, spoke with Matt, and that's, I believe, is how this came about, with moving the pool, condensing the sanitary system. Making that work, but that's checks the box as a good thing. Meet the 50-foot wetland buffer, box check. We did talk about removal of structures in a buffer, the existing cottage. Again, I think that's kind of up to the applicant. We'd like to see-
The applicant says she's gonna get rid of it. That was her
Well,
daughter's already.
No, the shed,
Oh, shit.
there's a shed and patio, and then there's also actually the patio on the easterly side of the house. So turn that into the permanent one.
And I think that may
What's that?
tie in with
Well, all three of what I just said. So
one of the comments, Matt, was
Yeah.
quantify those removals.
you want square footages?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's on the survey, but I
I
can
think
put that
that's
in.
helpful to put in permit.
Okay.
If we go forward in that direction.
All right.
Quantify the removals, provide the arborist report. As I said, we're gonna check with sanitary, we did that. That's it.
Okay.
I think on the right track.
Is there, plumbing in the studio?
I believe there is, and it is, it's, I believe it's connected to that sanitary.
See that.
There is plumbing, we're proposing to connect it to the new IA system, but it does have, it does, and by plumbing, I think it's like maybe it's like a sink or something in there, I believe. But everything's on the block.
So the
You've been about it.
no change, but that's what's got the plumbing and it's gonna come all the way down. along there.
No, what they sometimes do is they'll plumb it right into the foundation, into the basement of the house. To connect it to the waste, because it's a lot, yeah, there's a lot of left disturbance.
That's what you're proposing.
That's what we're proposing. And we've done that before. John Brillsby's done that countless times. So. Yeah, so I apologize. I think John was just inundated with work. I tried to get this over to you guys earlier. I want to get the buffer on it, but I just want to bring you guys up to speed and get a feel for how you guys feel about it. So it sounds like it's pretty positive. So I got a checklist of things to do here.
That's the town clerk.
Hmm?
No, from the town clerk. Good work.
Thank you.
So you want a motion to adjourn this to the next one? Yes, motion to adjourn this to August 4th.
I'm sorry, I just gotta ask one other question. It's actually separate. It's on this property, but it's separate. The architect just asked me, how would you guys feel about doing a small patio with pervious pavers? Like in this, where the shed is located, or gonna be removed? She just wanted me to ask, so that's all I'm doing.
Which is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is remaining, where's the shed that you wanna, oh, shed.
Yeah, I got a couple of lines, like I asked about the press now.
Why would you put a patio over there?
So that's, is that a grassy area? This is all lawn. So, yeah, the lumber may come up. She may say, all right, I'm not, but I think the idea is to get the thought on, put it in paper or paper that thing in this. This plan now.
Yeah.
So you guys have an idea what the square footage.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry that we weren't really excited.
I know. I was really excited.
To turn it to August 4th.
August 4th, okay.
Is there a deck around this pool? I don't see.
No, that's surprising. We put in a patio on the survey and she said, no, nothing around the pool, just a coping.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were as surprised as you are.
That's all I wanted to make sure of.
Yeah,
Patio.
maybe that's what she, I don't know, but she was talking about the shed area, but we'll see. Okay, August 4th.
We have to vote on that.
We have a motion on the table and a second, so all in favor?
All in favor?
Okay. Thanks, board.
Yeah,
What's your next one with you?
Yes,
Popcorn is adjourned.
yes, there was a request from the applicant to adjourn to the August 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion. I'll second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Your job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Come on, let's see.
59 Howard Street.
Oh.
Last time these guys were here from the beginning. Until like 5 hours.
My name is Fred Stell, from the architecture firm of Stell and Water Honey, and this is Joseph Darko. And just a question, do you want us to walk through, because we made substantial changes to the site plan? I'd like to put up the easel. Just so, or unless you want to just look at them on your drawings.
I couldn't really see, like, some of the writing was in yellow. Kind of custard yellow, and I couldn't read it.
Yeah, so. Just tell me what it was that you're looking at. I'll try to explain it.
There you go.
The other that's not back much.
Oh, they're black.
You should we do it here, is that all right, or is that? So.
You wanna move up here if you consider?
We can also put it on the easel, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna go with you.
So.
I have this.
We didn't get much of a presentation. Last meeting, I don't know if you wanted to hear us, and in fact, we had to do that, so we were. But if you remember the last meeting, we had a student that had the building, had the addition is a simple rectangular building off to the side of the existing structure, which is going to be restored and connected by a glass gallery. And that pushed the building, the new house, the new part of the house. To into a small encroachment on the wetland on the 75-foot setback.
Which one? That was starting to hard.
It's sort of orange
Yeah.
line,
Okay, good.
so that's 75. So for your instructions, you're in fact the drawing board, and this is the new team. Basically the same square footage, a similar plan, similar program, a little bit smaller footprint. And it's conforming in all aspects as far as you know, it's conforming to the wetland setback. Conforming to turn law, zoning setbacks, public square area. And that's basically the story. I think it's conforming to So this line is the existing non-disturbance line, so everything outside of that is going to be removed. Everything in between that and this, which is completely the buffer line, will be new vegetation. There is a,
I think when,
yeah, there is, well, there's a vegetation of this species. It consists of its tree, consists of trees, bayberry. Let's see here, it's all.
Red maple, tupelo.
There you go. Yeah, the trees are red, they were.
What's the old guy, maybe is existing that was?
You're that here, that's an old. Yeah, that's like, if you go back and look at it, it's a hollowed out, it's about base with just a sprout. That's coming out. There are trees within, I don't know if you can show on here, the existing, with it, around the existing buildings are a series of trees that come down also. Because they also cross over this 75-foot setback line.
Well, if it's within the 75-foot setback, if there's existing trees, which I don't think you would have to change that.
Well, this willow is really in tragic shape.
Yeah.
Tragic.
Yeah,
Good word.
yeah.
It looks like it's been a couple of directions.
Yes, it had.
Okay, are any other trees coming down?
Yeah, no, it's just because when you take the things that the trees grow around this existing structure, so when you, and they're not wonderful specimens. And so there are some trees that we're leaving, but we're not touching, but most of the trees will be magnolias in front, and the tuberose and red maples and along the yard.
So do you think every tree that's coming down has got a replacement?
At least,
One,
at
okay.
least, it's like,
what
I would say it's like 5 to 1.
These guys are super excited about native planting in master plan for the site, so.
Yeah, no, we are. You know, I don't know the answer to that. I talked to Zach about it soon, and as you know, he's the advisor to the architectural review board. And he thinks that it might be 1700s. He thinks that it might be a building that was put up by the Gardner family or somebody that worked for them. The two buildings are next door to each other. They're almost identical. And we don't know that. Unfortunately, the interior of this building is essentially been ruined. It's been chopped up many times, back and put and taken out.
What was it last occupied?
Like 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's a pretty scary one.
No, actually. No, yeah, October, yeah, hi, my name's Tom Stella, it's my wife Jackie. It was occupied right before we took over in October of last year. And the lady who owned it even said she's surprised that there's no more accidents that happened. Because the stairs are like this. And like a shit, it's like a shit. Yeah. You have to go down backwards. You can't get up. Seriously, are you keeping that? No. I don't have enough money to pay for all of them.
Wait, and where's the septic?
So there's a new IA system here. It's plus an expansion field here, so it's going along as close as we could get it to the south property line. So it's far away from the wetlands as possible.
So that, okay, so that,
It's I think 100.
Yeah, so this line here at the time, here is well beyond.
It's like 120 feet. Yeah.
and that CMU wall is the neighbor.
It's gone. It's put up by the neighbor. We're gonna be filling that in. Using the excavating material from the site to fill that up to the top of that CMU wall.
You have to raise your septic or?
No, we don't have to do that, but what happens is that the grade drops away and the floor of the house is 8.5 and it needs to be 8 for FEMA. And so there's a fairly substantial drop off right at this point. So we'd like to raise the grade when you built in the site, because then you can just step out of the house at grade. You don't have to go downstairs. There's an existing sort of a storm porch on the back, and you end up going 3 or 4 steps from the grade to the main floor of the house. It'll be basically the same grade as it's here. Which is, this is, right in here is about 6 here. And this grade is 8. So we're going to be grading the our grade down this year. And so that's when you will install.
Are you happy?
Yeah, no, I think, I think.
You're really hard.
Yes, you did. I mean, you didn't get much of a shot at us because it was such a short meeting, but it,
You seem to have addressed the concept.
yeah, right. We accepted the challenge.
I would think ARB is very happy about it too.
Well, that's exactly right. Herb. In the process of going through this redesign, we had a informal review of the RD. They didn't love it, even though I thought architecturally it was very strong. So we went back, and this, what happens is that really there's 3 gable pillars.
Yeah.
So this is the existing one that has a shed in the back of it. This is a second one.
It's one story.
And it's just 1 story. And this is the 3rd one. That's 2 stories. So what happens is from the street, you see the existing what appears to be a 1-story building with a new 1-story building behind it. And they're all kind of held together by this glue of a series of flat roofs. So that the structures are clearly articulated. They don't kind of collide with each other. So there's a lot of air between the structures, air visually as well as physically. So we think it's better architecture.
Love it.
Yeah, so, you know,
Thank you.
give us lemons, we'll make lemonade.
I knew you could do it.
The park of ice supposed to be.
Yes, you mean over here?
Yeah.
There's, you know, that's a crazy building. I think there's like 3 or 4 units in it.
Oh, so it's a collective.
Yeah.
It's for sale.
It is right now.
I talked to your neighbor, from the man's house here.
The one who commented at the last meeting. No, you did definitely.
And his concern. Is.
Yes. So I'd like to make a couple of comments about this because I consider, Fred knows this. I've been on the board of nature conservancy for 15 years, so I consider myself a nature friendly person. I'm someone of a student of, you know, waters, groundwaters, coastal waters, bay waters, ocean waters. The thing about, you know, the 75-foot line is a nice, you know, standard to hold to, but it's really not about setback. It's about recharge area, right? So this thing, actually putting the drainage in, which, and we have, I think, 13 drainage rooms on the site. We have that. Yeah, we have a lot of drainage rooms. So to my mind, we ought to be letting the water just run into that, because that's what the wetlands do, it's recharging the groundwater. And when we did the renovations for Nature Conservancy building in Hampton, and we always using the spirit of vegetated swale for the recharge. And Suffolk County wouldn't accept that as a substitute for drainage rooms, even though they were fine.
They want.
Yeah, we had to use drainage rooms. Yeah, they wanted dry well. We did this well anyway. Let them do the work. So my own instinct would, you know, if I were looking at this from a conservation point of view, not to do this, because you're taking whatever runoff there is, which may have contaminants in it, and putting it deep into the groundwater,
And let it go to.
and let it percolate through microbial layer,
Yeah.
which is the way these things work. But that's what the code requires, so that's what we're gonna do. So anyway, that, you know, we're excited about this. This as a backyard, because it's, you know, it's full of life.
Yeah, it really is.
And,
Yeah, there were several here.
They're not unique in that.
It's probably fixed.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but so there are all these drainage rings, so we're controlling the groundwater runoff, stormwater runoff from the building as well as from the site. And the drainage, the area to drain through exceeds the required requirement.
Great.
Madam Secretary.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it took a little brownie.
Well done.
So, we would like to be able to come back as soon as we can to get an approval. And I don't know whether that's the next meeting or,
Mhm.
or you've done this meeting, what the process is.
Go ahead.
Well, it's certainly.
We haven't had a chance to look at it. We want to see-
No,
A week ago, yeah.
Checks all the boxes, check my notes, they've done everything they asked for, the 50-foot buffer setback and restoration plan and 75 feet, so. You would usually ask us to prepare comments for the next meeting. And that can certainly be done. Prepare.
I make a motion that we have Chick Gordy.
Mary Ann? I'm sorry.
Public?
Yes,
Oh,
public,
the public hearing?
public, yes. Katie.
After we get anybody from the public. Are there any- Take the public and the applicant.
Technically, you still have to ask.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. Thank you.
So you want to make a motion to close the public hearing if there's no.
I make a motion to close the public hearing. Second. All in favor? And now I'll make a motion that we ask Chick Gordy to draw up a permit for, what is it, 58, Howard.
59 Howard.
Street, 59 Howard. All right. Okay. Aye.
So we'll have a draft wetlands permit for the next meeting, August 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Forward to seeing it and do that.
You guys will all be invited.
First cocktail then.
It's pretty, I don't know, relationship between fathers and.
It's pretty good.
Question, you know where to get any wine for this thing?
I've already got it. Yeah, my son is in the wine business. And plan to move out here full time, so we will try to enrich the community as much as possible.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it'll be great.
You guys will eat, go downstairs. Yeah, you gonna hang with us?
Very.
Yeah. It's Good.
Yeah, I have one. According to chapter 32 of village code, the harbor committee is entitled to chairs, select vice chair. And I'm describing that role. Now, the only caveat is that he has to stay there. What? You have to stay there. Oh, okay, yeah. Just kidding. I don't know exactly what that is, anybody true, but if you look at the I believe it's 32-2.
Good, why not? So it means that when you go in September, you have something to take over.
Well, I guess it's.
Yeah, get stuck with that.
Yeah, it's,
32E.
yeah, 32-2E.
Hi.
Where's my crowd? You're late. You're approved.
This-
Done. I'm gonna blame it on the sergeant.
Yeah.
I don't want next door.
So you can do that. I can do that, so I would like to say that.
Make a motion. You would have to have a motion.
A second,
Who made the motion?
I'm so moved.
second.
Okay.
Aye.
So without objection. The please have to.
All right, let's get.
We have to, first of all,
Right,
We need a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation, specifically litigation related to eight.
Do we have to adjourn this meeting? first?
No, you do not have to do that, but we do, you need to close this out of.
I need to
Yeah.
stop.
So you know what,
Okay.
this is a little bit, technology being what it is, it's a little bit outside what we normally do, but. We should do the motion for executive session and we probably, because you gotta close out the
The live stream.
live stream, so, I would recommend that we also adjourn the regular meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. The Harbor Committee today on July 7th.
Second. Do you want to combine and go with?
And
We need, now we need to. So, yeah, motion for executive session.
We need to approve that.
Right, so, all in favor?
Aye. Okay.
So I'll make a motion then to move into executive session. to discuss January 8th. Second? Second?
All right, I just want 1 second. Go ahead. Who was second? Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
okay. Thank you. Hold on,
Special counsel
hold on.
on Zoom,
Okay.
probably should close